Hi, I'm Chip Rome with the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel, and you are watching In the Know. For this episode, we are here with some folks from the Connellsville Area Historical Society, and joining me is Karen Heckler, who's president of the society, and Ben Hoffman, who's a board member. Hello, Karen and Ben.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for coming out. Karen's claim to fame is that she was my junior high school history teacher, so don't hold that against her, but it's good to have you here today.
My goodness, I am constantly get this people. It wasn't so bad when the people who made a comment like you just made did it maybe 20 or 30 years ago.
It's been longer than that.
But you're getting older, and now that makes me that much older. My
Yeah.
goodness gracious. You and John Malone
Yeah.
like to talk.
Quit reminding you, huh? Well, we're talking about the Historical Society has a couple big events coming up, and we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk a little bit about history related to those events. But let's start out by talking about Braddock's Crossing, the reenactment. When is that going to happen in 2024?
Our 21st reenactment of the Braddock Crossing will be on the proper time, June the 29th and 30th. He crossed June the 29th and 30th in 1755. So this is the actual time when he crossed. What we said 271 years ago or something like that.
Way back when.
Way back when. And this is our, Connellsville's historical involvement in the French and Indian War.
Okay.
On Saturday, we come together at 11 o'clock for the opening ceremony, and at 1 o'clock we have the crossing.
Okay. So people to see the whole event should arrive before 11 if they want to see the actual ceremony, correct?
We would certainly hope so, yes.
And this is at Yough Park in Connellsville.
It's at Yough Park, but on the Connellsville Historical Society's section,
Right.
where Crawford Cabin exists.
Which is adjoining Yough Park.
It's adjoining the Yough Park,
Yeah.
but it belongs to us.
So parking, they should park actually down in the area that you would normally park for Yough Park, which is right along the bike trail there.
Ben, do you want to say something about your parking?
This year we have been blessed with the option to use the 5-acre lot that was cleared by Schallenberger in the past few years. So we have that lot now for the event goers.
Okay.
And they can park at the top of the hill behind Martin's.
Okay. That's true, because you could park at Martin's and actually walk down the Great
Absolutely.
Youghiogheny Passage.
Yes.
That's a good point. So lots of parking. There's no problem with parking.
No problem
Yeah.
with parking.
And then your second event's the 29th. You want to talk about that? That's actually a dinner and a lecture?
I had the dream of bringing a historian to Connellsville to talk about some aspect either of the French and Indian War and the river crossing or local history. And it started in 2019. And then we were interrupted by the COVID situation in 2020, and we got started again last year with Richard Robbins from Uniontown newspaper. And now this year we have a wonderful lady coming. Her name is Kimberly Hess, and she's going to talk about Sarah B. Cochran. And we're really looking forward to hearing from her. She's going to speak on Friday night, which is totally sold out. And then we have a Saturday option for people to attend.
And the Saturday option is at noon, and it's going to be at the Somerset Trust built a historical train station on the west side of Connellsville.
And we are so thankful to her Somerset Trust and Bonnie Henry for arranging that for us. Yes.
I'm glad, because I wanted to come to the first one, but I procrastinated and missed the opportunity. So I get
Never
to,
procrastinate.
I know better, but I did, and it didn't work out very well. But fortunately, there's a second opportunity.
Yes.
Now, how do folks get tickets? Tickets are $35 a person for that, and that includes a lunch, a catered lunch.
That's a catered lunch. It's Sparks Catering.
Okay.
And if they send a check for $35 made out to the Connellsville Historical Society,
Okay.
send it to 1103 Isabella Road, Connellsville, and I will send you your tickets by mail.
Okay. Great. So that's how you can get tickets.
Yes.
So reservations are required for that, but for Saturday's event, the crossing, no reservations for that. Just show up and you can.
Oh, you
be
can,
part of it.
no. Oh, you scared me there for a minute. There's reservations for the dinner.
Correct.
But to come down for the crossing, no, there's no reservation.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So let's talk a little bit about the crossing. So the significance of that. This was a big part of American history. So you want to talk about that significance? My history teacher taught me about this, but I want to see if she still remembers.
The situation was that the French were busy building forts along the rivers because this is a world power struggle back in the War for Empire period of time that we're celebrating. It's the French and Indian War in America. It's the 7th Year War in Europe. And the French and Indians were, the French and the English were the two number one powers at the time. And they both wanted the Ohio River Valley. That's the reason we have 3 flags flying over Memorial Bridge. Did you ever notice them?
I did notice that right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Clyde Martz and Jim Hahn put those up for us every year. And you have the American flag in the middle. You have the French fleur-de-lis, the French flag in the past, and the British Union Jack on the other side. And both of them wanted that area because it was rich in fur, and it was also a place for the English to move over the mountains. They were beginning to fill up the Atlantic coast, move over the mountains, and get fresh land. And consequently, we have the two powers of the world struggling with each other. And the French had built their forts, and they were down to what you and I now call Pittsburgh. They had built a fort there called Fort Duquesne. Mm-hmm. Now I always tell the kids, now you know the name Duquesne, and it's a French name. How did a French name get in our area? So it was that the French had built the fort. And so Braddock was from England. He came to Virginia, and he had about 2,000 men, and they cut a road, the Braddock Road, across the mountains, and ended up in what is now Connellsville to cross the river. And every time I go up and down the mountains to Jumonville in that area, I think mission impossible. I mean, how did they ever cut a road? Yeah. And they had to drag everything they wanted with them in Conestoga wagons. Right. So it was amazing. Yeah. And so Bill Bosley, he's my mentor, my hero. He wanted to do this.
And he's pictured here.
Yeah, I have a picture there of Bill. He never got to go to our first crossing, but he's the one that inspired me. Uh-huh. Karen, we've got to do this. We've got to have this crossing so the people in Connellsville and the area know that we played a big part in the French and Indian War. And so when we did this for 2004, was the first time we crossed the river, we did that as kind of a dress rehearsal. Uh-huh. 2005 was the actual 250th anniversary, and we did it with crossing the river. And so we made front page of the Courier, front page of the Uniontown paper. It was big stuff. Yeah.
So Braddock and his troops arrived here at the Yough and weren't able to put the road over. They weren't going to build a bridge, so they actually just...
No, they couldn't build a bridge. Yeah. There was no way they could build a bridge. They camped by the Youghiogheny River. In fact, we know they camped where Robinson Falls are.
Okay, yes.
They camped. Some of them camped there. They came and crossed the river.
That's out in Dunbar Township.
Yes.
Yeah.
They stayed in the area 2 days. They crossed the They waded across the Youghiogheny River. They knew about Stewart's Crossing because that's what this area was called at the time, okay. Stewart's Crossing. And on their maps that they had available, it said Stewart's Crossing. So they were aiming for Stewart's Crossing to cross the Youghiogheny River. And then when they got to the other side, they stayed for 2 days, and they did whatever was necessary for them to be able to continue on. They had to rest, and they had to do whatever was necessary for the soldiers to have the equipment, etc., that they needed to, continue on their march.
1,500 men?
They baked the bread. And that's what I have some trouble remembering. They had to stop and bake bread because what does an army travel on? But everybody tells you an army travels on its stomach. Uh-huh. So you have to feed the guys. And so they baked the bread, and then they continued on their trip to Fort Duquesne.
And how many were there?
He had 2,000 men with him. Okay. They had 300 Conestoga wagons, thanks to Benjamin Franklin. Uh-huh. He was the one who provided the wagons for them.
Okay. And then they had cattle and things too.
Oh, they had to bring cattle. I mean, you had to take everything with you because you couldn't stop at the local
sheets
and get what you wanted.
Walmart wasn't around.
No, you had to take everything you needed.
Yeah. Now, apparently in 1755 the water was low because they were able to get across. But you have had challenges in some years you couldn't cross because the river was too high.
The river gets high, and it also gets very swift. And I told you we have the fire company,
New Haven
Hose. They offer us protection, and they tell us if the river's too deep and too swift, because if someone was walking across and the river's really swift and they slide and fall under the water, by the time they can find them,
Yeah.
they would be dead. And the water gets kind of dark. You can't see down to the bottom of the river.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful.
New Haven Hose has a river rescue team.
Yes,
I think
a river
that's what.
rescue
yeah,
team.
when they're
And
available.
we couldn't do it without New Haven Hose.
Yeah. So will you have some folks in period costumes? I know they won't cross in those costumes, but will there some folks here dressed in those period costumes?
Well, but Ben will speak to that.
Yes, we will. We will have the Redstone Rangers. They've been a favorite for the past 20 years at the event, and they will be in period costume, along with some of Colonel Crawford's company from Sandusky, Ohio, will be joining this year for the event.
That's great. Yeah, that's always nice to see the costumes and things. Do you have a website, Facebook page, so people could find out more information?
Yes, we do. Connellsville Area Historical Society on Facebook, or ConnellsvilleAreaHistoricalSociety.com.
Okay, for the website. Yeah.
Perhaps Ben will tell you about a new group that we have called Living Historians that he's very instrumental.
You want to talk about that group, Ben?
As the Living Historians idea was born out of a conversation after last year's crossing to spark interest in younger generations in history, and we were provided everything we need to start this group from the society and the hotel tax grant, the Laurel Highlands Visitors Bureau, to finish the basement for our base of operations
Gibson House basement.
at the Gibson
Okay.
House. And we are excited to fall in with the other historians this year at the event and to learn firsthand what they do and how to do it.
Now, if someone was interested in becoming a part of that group, how would they get a hold of you? Through Facebook or your website?
Yes, through
Okay.
Facebook or the website be the best option, or through the contact information on either.
Okay. So it's called the Young Historians?
Living.
Living Historians.
Okay.
They
Now,
are young, but they're living.
yeah. And this is an answer to prayer for you. You've been looking for some young people.
Absolutely.
And,
It's
you-
very, very hard to get people. When we first started, we had a few regimental groups that came, but it gets to the place where they don't do French and Indian War much anymore. Right now, the big thing is Civil War,
Uh-huh.
and to find a group who will come, plus the expense of bringing in, organized regimental groups is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
For the Historical Society.
Well, I thank you for keeping history in front of us and keeping it alive for us, both of you. I appreciate what the Historical Society has done and what you're doing to continue to help us.
That's my life.
I know that, yes.
That's my
yeah.
life.
You've taught it. How many years were you a teacher in Connellsville School District?
Almost 40.
Almost 40.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a lot of years.
And I love American history, and it's my baby.
Yeah,
The
that's
Historical
good.
Society.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I appreciate And Bill Bosley would be pleased, I'm sure, that you've continued
Well,
to keep that going.
He's the one who inspired me, and he was I told you earlier, he was my mentor.
Uh-huh.
And I'm so glad that even though he didn't get to the first river crossing, he knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
He knew it was going to happen.
And that was his dream.
That was his dream.
Yeah.
And he turned his dream over to me. And I'm just fulfilling a legacy.
Yeah.
That is Bill Bosley's legacy. And that's what makes it especially important to me. And when people, the people in the city don't come down and support us as much as I would hope they would, because you think that whatever you're interested in, everybody else should be super interested in too. But it's something that we can give back to the community, and we hope the community joined us on Friday, or on Saturday and Sunday, June the 29th and 30th this year. Come and join us for the 21st River Crossing.
I hope they will come too. Thank you both. Wish you well with the event.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And now you're in the know.